Hey everyone. We're just going to be jamming out on what's currently going on in our experiments or our processes today. So don't really know what's going to come up, but we'll just see where the conversation flows. Just waiting for Brandy to get on. There she is. Hey.
Hey.
Coffee time.
I know, it's legit coffee time.
Real life coffee talk. How weird is it about my dream?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
What? The dreamscape is something I still just can't even comprehend.
Hello, everybody who's on.
Ooh, Neutrino Radio. That's a cool name.
Yeah.
Welcome, welcome. I don't really know what we're going to talk about today, but we'll see where the conversation flows.
Good morning. When you're hopping on, if you want to drop any information you want about yourself, your design, anything you want to specifically talk about, give us something to respond to. I have a weird setup today. I just did my red light, so I'm upstairs.
Oh. What's up?
Okay, so we were talking about something yesterday, and it was like, yes, let's talk about that on Coffee Talk.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, how do you want to go into that?
All right, so I love conversation that just flows. Are you both passive or active? We are both passive brain, receptive mind. So yeah, we don't usually plan these. Sometimes we'll have like a loose topic that we want to discuss, but we don't usually plan them.
Or if we have a guest, it's, we ask questions and all of that to them.
Yeah.
But we'll just kind of, and then we stop whenever we feel complete.
Yeah.
So if there's anything specific that you want to talk about, discuss, or if you want to hop on, if anybody wants to hop on with us, you're welcome to.
Quad right, very cool. Yeah, Brandy and I have the same variables, at least directional wise. So our only left is the bottom right view arrow.
I cannot see, so
what?
I can't see comments, I don't think so.
Okay, cool.
Keep an eye out for that.
I will keep an eye on that. Hi. People are just saying hi, checking in.
Yeah.
Okay, so something I know that we wanted to touch on today, we were talking yesterday just about, I don't know if people are aware of this that are on this right now, but there's been a divide in the human design community on here, much like there is a divide in the entire world, it seems, these days. And there's, and it's my perspective that there doesn't need to be sides, but it seems like that's kind of how it's organized itself. There's people that are more, what's the word I'm looking for? There's people that are more into what we might call like pop human design, and then there's people that are more into the traditional source material, which we just think about as human design because the new variations of it aren't really human design. If it's not coming from the source material, it's not actually human design. So that's just kind of where Brandy and I stand with that. But we wanted to address, these accusations of bullying happening on Instagram and just where we stand with that. And I'm emotional. So honestly, like this is the clarity that I have in this moment on it. And I've been honestly up at night thinking about this kind of stuff because at the end of the day, I'm a fourth line. I have 659. I have this desire for everybody to just get along, but I know that that's also not possible. And
I'm
I
a
also,
line with channel of preservation and tribal surgery. So like this like pulls at us.
yes. Yeah, it's like I can understand the people that are coming forward and saying, this is bullying, this doesn't feel good, and having their feelings hurt. And I really honor that because, I was bullied growing up at school, and I just have a soft spot for people's feelings. But at the same time, I know that I'm not responsible for everybody's feelings, and I can't control how people feel. That's conditioning that I've decided to let go this last year because I was very conditioned to people please and care solely about people's feelings. So yeah, we just wanted to come on here and kind of like set the record straight and talk about where our stance is with this whole thing as of right now. And yeah, do you want to add anything to that right now, Brandy?
No, I think you covered it really nicely. Just because we want you to know who you're engaging with on this platform. We want you to know, we don't want there to be any questions. Like, we want transparency. We created Human Design Coffee Talk so we could get on here and talk about our favorite thing. It's not a paid platform or anything like that. Like, we're not selling anything on here. We're just getting on here and talking about our experiments. We love having guests on, and we're fourth lines. We love that network. We love having that network, especially in the human design community. It's very important for us. And so when there's this when there's upheaval or separation, like that is like, oh no, with both of our designs, that's like, no.
So uncomfortable.
Also so uncomfortable, but making sure that we do what's correct for us and knowing when to enter into something, if we want to respond to something or if we don't. This entire topic we want to respond to and say that me personally, I will not participate in bullying somebody. If I have questions or inquiry about what they're doing, that's genuinely me asking. I do have gate 39-4 in my conscious sun. I have cross of tension, but I'm a right angle. And there's just so many different parts and pieces to everybody's uniqueness and then we think we know where our mind wants to be like, oh, you said that because of that, or you did that because of that. But I have sincere inquiry when I'm asking about where did this stuff come from, or where did that come from? Because I want to know, because also I want to talk about it and share with my network what's going on so that they're aware. And so for me, I never have the intention of bullying or putting anybody down. If people are experimenting and doing their thing, I want to know what's going on. My fourth line wants to know what's out there, what's going on, all of the things. And so it kind of, I have to be able to balance that and know what's correct for me when it comes to, what do I want to say? I have to know how to balance that within the human design community. So not that I can stay neutral. I don't want to stay Switzerland. I don't want my undefined solar plexus to be like, whoa, we're not going to, confront anything. But like, I think I just more than anything want my network to know where I stand, that I will not participate in that. There are things that I've learned in my own experiment about my own definition, about confronting things within myself when I see other things. And we should always be able to question things, even the original system itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a religion, it's a science. We should be able to question it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's, I think it's really easy to get swept up into the tribal aspect of being in community. And, even being emotional, I can't really trust how I feel when I'm first presented with information. I have to sit with it. I have to gain awareness over time. I have to wait for clarity. And I'm still learning that dance. Like, I'm only 3 years into this experiment and only like a year and a half into really taking it seriously. So it's it's a dance for me to figure out, like, because I'm desire motivation too. What's my desire with this? What stance do I have versus, being in innocence and being like, oh, I'm just not going to even go there. Like, whatever, I'm just going to observe. And trying to make everybody happy and trying to please everybody when I do have a very clear stance on this. And I think that's what's so beautiful about human design in general, is that we all have a different filter in which we're going to look at the world, in which we're going to perceive things, and what works for us and what doesn't work for us. And I'm also not here to tell anybody that they're doing anything wrong. And that goes for the people that are being accused of bullying, and that goes for the people that are posting about whatever they want to post about. However, I've been kind of comparing this to, and I don't really know if this is a correct comparison. This is what it feels like to me, like the frequency around it, to maybe like somebody, almost like how people speak out about certain MLMs, like the whole LuLaRoe thing. And, it's like, I've had all these people reach out to me and say, oh, I got ripped off by this person. Oh, they're teaching manifestation and human design. And I tried to talk to them and tell them that their teaching didn't work for me, and And so there's a part of me that gets really like,
yes,
emotional about that. And my one tribal channel, gets juiced, and I'm like, oh, these people are getting ripped off. This is not fair. This is not cool. And if anything, I'm not saying those teachers are putting out, it's my stance that they are putting out incorrect information, but I'm not saying that they're doing that in order to manipulate or take advantage of people on purpose. I think they genuinely really do believe in those teachings, and they've worked for them, and that's great. But there's a lot of people that's not going to work for. And so I think that's where transparency is really important. And I think that's where being really transparent about, if you're putting a teaching out, being very transparent about your design, having your design up on your website, having it on your Instagram, so people know the filter that this teaching is coming through. And then people can actually make a correct decision for themselves based upon that. If they have all of the information, then they'll be able to make a correct decision. And, it's not these teachers' fault that it didn't work for them, but it is, if they're not being entirely transparent, then maybe there is some fault there. So yeah, I'm here to say I'm not telling anybody what to do, but I think that people have a right to jump into comment sections and ask questions if they have questions, because also this is a public platform. When we put ourselves out here on Instagram, we decide, I know that I'm going to get some scrutiny because not everybody's going to agree, because we're not really designed to have 20,000 opinions coming at us every single day. And so I do have a lot of compassion for that, because it's even hard for me. Like, I don't even have a huge following or whatever, like some of these influencers do, but we're designed to live in like little tribes where we only have to deal with, 20 people's opinions. And now we're on these platforms where we're having to deal with 20,000 opinions flying at us. But again, we make the choice to do it. And people also have the power to block and to delete comments. And I also respect people for doing that too, if they need to do that. Because we're all operating through our own personal inner authority. And again, I can't tell somebody what's correct for them and what's not correct for them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you brought up motivation, because I'm Hope Motivation, and I don't really enter into things from my motivation, because I just follow strategy and authority. But yeah. I notice that when I can gauge my motivation in something, and I can tell, oh, that was my mind, not my sacral, or that was my spleen, not my sacral, by this feeling of wanting to take action on something. And that pulses hard. So tribal circuitry with Hope Motivation, like I feel this need to take action for the tribe. I don't want anybody to have a bad experience with their human design experiment. I want them to explore the curiosity of it with wonder and like, wow, this information is really cool. I don't want them to feel like that didn't work for me necessarily, or that was, I feel like that was just another thing to do. Because human design, while it's like marketed and stuff like that, it's just an experiment of your own energy, for your own energy. It's a blueprint of your own energy. And so I just hope that people will find it within themselves to experiment with their strategy and authority, and from there go into what is correct for them, you know, as far as courses and classes and masterminds and things like that. I am incredibly passionate about the basics of human design, the centers and type, strategy, and authority. Like, that's what lights me up. Just getting that information, and then from there you do what you want with it. Getting correct information from the beginning about not self themes and the centers, and really strategy is huge.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where I have to kind of reel it in sometimes, because I can get like a savior complex when I have all of these people or all of these clients coming to me and really upset because they don't think human design's working for them, but it's actually because they got incorrect information. I get emotional about that because human design has literally changed my life, and it has helped me in so many ways. And when I'm seeing that people are not getting the source material and they're getting, interpretations of the system and not the actual system, it can be, it's upsetting for me, and I have to own that. And I also have to own that it's not my responsibility to like save everybody, and the people that are meant to be in the experiment will be in the experiment. So yeah, I've been processing a lot of that lately, and just coming back to myself and this whole thing of, what's correct for me and how do I really feel about this. And if I'm really being honest, I do feel bad for the people that are perceiving themselves as being bullied. But at the same time, people have a right to ask questions. So
yeah. Yeah. And another thing I want to touch on too is if people are watching this who are in the human design community beyond their experiment, maybe you're teaching, analyst, reader, anything like that. I'm also really passionate about like knowing your lane. We can't do it all. Like even within this, there are so many aspects of everything. Like we can't do it all. And so here's an example. I'm a human design reader. I've been in my experiment for over 2 years. I've taken all my foundational classes. I'm about to start LYD guide. I'm in a human design practicum. I'm really learned. I have a lecture on all the time. It's just kind of a constant thing. I know a lot about a lot of the system, but I don't share about a lot of the system. So even my own husband, who I've talked to him about his design. He's had a reading with John Cole. He's, because I'm like, I also want to separate myself and have him have his own experiment. But he's been just struggling with his authority. He's emotional. And I'm like, I can talk to you about it. I can regurgitate information. But as far as like lived experience, I need you to go talk to an emotional about emotional authority. Like, I can't fix people. I don't want to have this like, oh, I have the solution for all of your problems. I mean, maybe it's somewhere in there, but am I the best person for that? So like really asking yourself when your clients are coming to you or people are coming to you with questions, like one of the coolest things is not be afraid to be like, hey, this person is really good at that. Like not holding on to somebody to keep them as a client, or, it's just like, that's how we can create more of this flowing community of like, oh, I'm not a fifth line and you're having this experience that you want to share with me that seems like you want to talk to somebody who has a fifth line, who's a 5-1 or a 5-2, or, like, here, go reach out to them. Here's their link, book a session with them and talk to them about it. So to integrate, because we can share all of the information that we want to. We can regurgitate, we can read it all, but integrating it and experimenting with it is like key. And if you're not able to integrate the information, then of course it could easily be like, well, that didn't work, or you're not giving yourself time to integrate. Kind of like, Teresa, you've talked about this before, that healing trap, right? Where you just get stuck in this constant like needing to know more, and like maybe you learn about strategy and authority and then you're like, oh, variables. Well, have you integrated and experimented with strategy and authority to then go into that next level? Yeah. Or is somebody presenting information to you online, like a beginner's class, like learn about your human design and we'll go over variables. Those are like two ends of the spectrum, So it's just like, there's so many pieces to integrate.
Yeah, absolutely. Wanted to address some things in the comment section. So
yeah, sorry, I can't see them, so I don't know.
Yeah, you're good. Somebody says, I had a professional reading through IHDS and it sucked. Ha ha, homogenous concepts like the school is putting out people who are doing great readings is also a whole thing. Yeah, so I agree with that. You know, I think just because somebody's been to IHDS doesn't mean that they are a good analyst, right? It's like anything else that exists in the world. Just because you go to massage school doesn't mean you're a good massage therapist. You can learn all of the things, but it doesn't mean that you're going to actually, that actually should be your career. Or people could enter into that experience from not self and learn the formula, but not actually be good at building rapport and everything. And that's why I've chosen, at least at this point, not to go to analyst school, because I don't like the cookie cutter approach to giving a reading, although I understand it at the same time, because if you're trying to educate a mass amount of people, you have to give them a formula. And it's designed for strategic minds. I'm not strategic. I can show up and sit and listen and take in all the information, but it doesn't feel natural to me to go through a formula step by step because I'm not strategic. And I think Brandy feels the same way in terms of our conversation. So that's why we want to do LYD guide training, so that we can get really good at teaching the basics, which we think is what helps people the most at the end of the day. So yeah, I've heard that too. I've heard that from a lot of people, that they had bad readings from IHDS. You can have bad readings from anybody. It doesn't matter what their certification is. We're not all about, I have a completely open ego. I'm not obsessed with certifications. I just want the right information from a mentor that resonates with me. So I don't care about the certification that comes with that.
Yeah. And with that, not being afraid to, it could be a mind thing to think that you took this here, you need to take that here, you need to continue on. And like, just remembering to check in with your with your authority when you're moving through things, so that is it still a yes? Is it still correct for you? Is it still correct for you? Because Teresa and I had many conversations. It's like, yeah, well, we have open heads, so we talk about a lot of the stuff, but it was like this and this and this, and it's like, it's just a no to move on at IHDS for analyst school for me. And she was riding her wave on that. And then we were given information about doing LYD guide training with a lock, and it was like, yes, for me right away. Yep. Yes, that, a lock's not with the school. He has your own authority. We're talking with James Alexander about continuing our education with readings, really diving into not self and stuff. So there's different teachers, and you have to know what's correct for you. I mean, don't be afraid to like move around and follow your own uniqueness.
Yeah, IHDS just didn't resonate with me. I took Ray VBCs there just because the timing of it worked out. But even like I'm feeling cognition. So I go to the website and I'm just like, just the feeling of the website, it's a no to me. But, I also, one of my mentors is affiliated with them, and actually both of them are, and really, but then they also have some views about them, and it's nothing's perfect. I'll just say that. Like, something can be really good and nothing's perfect, and IHDS is going to resonate with some people and it's not going to resonate with others, and there's a lot of options to go through. But I do think there is an art to giving a reading, and I think you're going to do your own spin through your own filter, and it's important to be almost in your authority when you book your first reading. At least have the person resonate with you, because you might not know much about who you are, your chart, or how you make decisions even, but if there's a resonance with somebody, that I think that's important.
Yeah. So Teresa took LYD at college. I took LYD at IHDS, and then she took Rave ABCs at IHDS. I took Rave ABCs with Human Design Collective, and then we both took Rave Cartography with Human Design Collective.
Mm-hmm. So. Neutrino radio keynoting makes me physically ill. I'm the same.
the process of it.
I can't.
The keynotes themselves are potent, right?
Keynotes are great, yeah.
But the keynoting process is
that's the very strategic process. I can't.
My
I
brain.
can't do it. I did do it for homework like once, and I was just like, I can't do this. There's an unnecessary expectation that you have to learn to do readings. Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of these schools have this, again, it's the formula. They want you to learn their formula, and Ra created that, and I understand why. And maybe at that time period, or maybe even, for half of the people that are supposed to learn human design, or whatever percentage that's necessary. But I think options are great. And I think just, especially as like a second line, like human design is something that naturally I just got. The first time I ever looked at a chart, I was just like, I feel home. I feel like I'm home. Doesn't mean I was good at talking about it right away, but I think it happened pretty quick for me, just considering I'm just naturally locked into it. But yeah, let's see.
In the school, it's very left, right? So when you're receptive and you're in an environment when they're teaching you a very left way to be, and it's a very homogenized process, right? But that's what they have to do to have this formula to make sure that the correct information is getting out there. That feels like it's going to switch to me. It feels like it's that's going to evolve,
Yeah, and some people are much more equipped to self-study. I know some incredible human design teachers, guides, whatever you want to call them, that are completely self-studied, but they understand the foundation of the information, and they're not changing it and tweaking it, and they're putting their own spin on giving the information to somebody, but they're also keeping the foundational information.
You just gave me something to respond to for inviting our next guest that we've been talking about.
Oh, yep. Great idea. Great call. Yeah, and there's tons of resources out there for self-study. Let's see what people are talking. It says, going back to how this conversation started, I like some folks are getting awful readings from folks who just found human design and want to sell it. Yes. So that is, I think that some people feel more comfortable booking with a certified analyst because they know at least that this person has been in their experiment for at least 3 years and they've gotten the correct information. So again, doesn't mean that person is a good analyst, but it's almost like a trust thing, and sometimes I think you can resonate with somebody and love their energy, but then they're still giving you the incorrect information, and they're changing the system and changing the words, and it's not deeply like sitting with you. And I can attest to this because when I first got into human design, I did an influencers training. And although I had source material, I'd purchased some of the lectures from Raw, and I had purchased some PDFs and whatnot. The way that this person explained things was just easier for me to comprehend at that time. And I almost thought that it was like a waste of time to read the source material because it was like, oh, they've already explained it all to me in their own way, and I understand this better. But it was actually just that I wasn't ready for the deep layers that I was trying to go into, and this person was almost dumbing that stuff down. And so if I would have just kept experimenting with strategy and authority, I probably would never have even purchased that person's class. I just wanted more information than I was ready for. Because now I read the source material, I'm like, oh, this makes perfect sense. At the time, it didn't make any sense to me. So yeah, it's I think because of my own personal experience, that's also why I get fired up about this, because I did spend a lot of money on this influencers course, and I didn't even know about, taking Living Your Design and all of that stuff. And that's my own fault for not doing more research. But I'm like, I know how crappy the information can be. And at the time I wasn't doing readings, but I was telling my friends about it. And I was a personal trainer. I was telling some of my clients, and I was exposing them to the system, but it wasn't resonating with everybody. Like some people that were like, oh yeah, totally. That totally makes sense. And then other people were just like, no. But now that I give the correct information and I use the proper keynotes, it's a totally different experience. And not to mention, I've just been in my experiment for X amount of time, and it's actually like, I do think there's a cellular activation that happens once you enter into the experiment and you're actually following strategy and authority, where then you're ready to take in the next level of information and you're ready to transmit the information to somebody else. And there's a frequency that happens, because it's not even necessarily, I've learned it's not even necessarily what the person is saying. You know, when I got my foundation reading, there wasn't anything that was mind blowing about what the analyst said, but this person had been in their experiment for 10 years, and there was like there's a transmission of frequency that happened between us. And it was like, oh
yeah.
my God, it was a feeling. It wasn't even what she was saying. And so.
I do want to touch on too, that I want to recognize Jess Fields. She has a reader training and it's very extensive. And I think she's in the process of tweaking something as far as, I'm not 100% sure, but I've just seen little blips of like making it more accessible for people. But her and Teo, and I'll tag them in the comments after this video gets posted, they have a reader training and they are excellent. They're not associated with the school, but the depth that they have in their training, from what I just feeling and seeing on her stories, because she'll post on her stories about, hey, we're looking for this, or she'll do the quizzes for her students or her close friends list and all these things. And I'm like, they get in there. It is not just that weekend, 3-week, you know,
I think it's a year,
human
right?
design, like a year-long thing. And she has a team that works with people and really gets that information in there and integrates it. And Teo is just
Teo's awesome.
Incredible. So if you've been thinking about doing some sort of reader training, or you want to further some information in the school route or the college route is a no for you, check out Teo and Jess.
So I don't think they're doing it anymore. I think what they're going to do now is do, at least from what I've read of hers, they want to make it more accessible, because it is really expensive. Like if you compare it to doing education through IHDS or Human Design America or something, which also is another thing. Human Design America has a different vibe than IHDS. So if IHDS doesn't resonate, you might check them out. But yeah, I think what they're doing is, it seems like they're going to do self-paced stuff now. So it'll probably be much more affordable than it, because I think right now it's like $10,000 or $12,000 for the whole year, which I mean, God bless you if you have access to those resources, but I know a lot of people don't.
Yeah. It was something that was on my radar when I was looking at foundation classes. I was going between, you know, gaining more information before I made my decision. And at that time, it was a no for me. But that was just for me. I had to be on my own thing. It doesn't mean, I mean, I still think I think they're incredible teachers. I mean, is she emotional projector? Splenic. I can't remember. And then Teo's mental projector, which we have a mental projector mentor and teacher, Amy Lee. And gosh, those mental projectors, they're fucking cool.
They are fucking cool. Like, and I love the way that her and John work together. So we work with Amy Lee and John Cole, the Human Design Collective, and like they have the best human design podcast out there, first of all.
Yes.
Amazing if you don't already listen to it. And I just love them so much. I love working with them. I love watching them work as a team. They both bring different things to the table. Yeah, it's just incredible. And now, you know, we're doing a practicum with them. We're going to keep learning with them. And I think that can be a route to take. You know, somebody said in the comments that they were gifted a bunch of raw source material. It's been a whole process accepting the clear invitation to learn there. So I found a mentor to help guide my learning process, and it's huge. Yeah, I think that's great. And that seems to be more the route that resonates with me, because I have also, I have a ton of source material as well, but it's like, I need help digesting it, integrating it. And again, I don't necessarily have the drive to like know all of the like little detailed things and the super deep information. Like our friend Breyton is the master of variables and the substructure of the charts, and he's walking source material at this point. He knows all the things, but I don't
we're
have
also
desire.
MG. I feel like we're MG.
Yeah,
That's that, like feels like you don't see many MGs that have that depth that the projectors do.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
Also, a human design podcast or collective podcast, I do want to shout this out. They have 2 episodes with Alok Nandias, and they are incredible. He talks about when he met Ra and that how that all kind of came about, and he's mesmerizing to listen to. But if you're curious about some of that early stuff in human design and hearing it from a manifester, there's something about the frequency when he speaks. So I recommend those. I recommend the whole podcast, but check out those 2 episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm checking with some of the comments. Yeah, I'm a projector, so it's kind of hilarious to charge that much. To me makes sense. It's not my route. Yeah, I mean, I think I get it. It's I've invested a lot to work with coaches in the past, and I understand, especially them being projectors and the amount of work that needs to be done. And again, it's up to people to assess their own value of something that they're putting out, or the value and the worth of something that's being put out there. But I think we're all going to have different levels of investment, and even investing your time is huge too. Our time is worth a lot. So I think if you're going to go the professional route because you want human design as an offering, there's ways to go about it to where you feel like you'll have a good foundation,
In the classes, I mean, they're no joke. They're 2.5 hours long in the middle of a weekday. Sometimes, depending on where you are in the world, they make them at a time where anybody in the world can attend them, or you can catch them, virtually. But yeah, it is an investment. But I feel like LYD, everybody, if you want to experiment with your human design, LYD, and some outlet.
You can find so many different teachers that teach LYD. Probably, we know people that still teach it that aren't even affiliated with IHDS anymore because they just don't want to be, but they still have like Ben, like he teaches it, and he's a 6 line, so he just has his own spin on it, and he just didn't want to be affiliated with IHDS anymore. So there's a lot of people that you can go to out there for LYD, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like the cookie cutter IHDS situation. I went to Human Design America. I really liked it. Different vibe there. It's still, they're still affiliated with IHDS, where you can go there and take courses, and then you can go take analyst training at IHDS or whatever, and vice versa. But they also teach PTL at Human Design America. So there's lots of different. John Martin. Does John Martin teach? Oh yeah, he does. That's where James Alexander learned from. Yeah, John Martin. What's it called again? It's like human design. I don't know. It's not coming to mind.
One thing I want to touch on quick, the comment about like the projectors and the charging and stuff. And if that person was referring to like Jess and Teo, let's recognize how they've set themselves up as projectors, to have a team, to have people working with them. So they're not grinding 8 hours a day. They're living that 9-centered business model.
Yeah.
And I think that's fucking cool.
Yeah. And it's like, we all have choice in this. So if people can afford that, and I'm sure they have payment plans and that kind of thing, if people can afford that and that's the route they want to take and they resonate with Jess and Teo, then they're getting into that knowing that that's the investment, and knowing that they get personalized attention and they get a whole team supporting them. And I can understand why some people want to pay that much money, and I can understand why there's a ton of value there. And also they're just two small creators compared to IHDS, where IHDS has a ton of resources, and as far as like, I don't know, you just can't compare values. It's a totally different route to take. So yeah, but I understand, because I definitely couldn't afford that when I first found out about it at all. So I get it. Let's see if we have any other questions here. Oh, Human Design Hawaii is what John Martin's called. Cool. Yeah, I feel like somebody put, it's so true. It feels like a gradual absorption of information that happens throughout the process naturally. And it's also helpful to recognize, Carla says it's helpful to recognize as a reader if you find yourself in transference. Yeah, 100%. And I think transference though is something that's a little more, it is fairly advanced. And I mean, I think that that is an important thing to know if you're going to be showing up in a professional way, to probably at least have knowledge of that, because then you can't really serve as outer authority if you're coming from a place of a distorted lens, So those are things that you end up learning along that route. Because that was something I was not able to integrate until this year, even within the last 6 months, really. I think working with Breyton really helped me shift out of transference, and I was able to see and I wasn't doing human design, full time. Even now, I use it as the foundation of things, but I do a lot of other things with my clients. It's more of a holistic approach to things. But when I was in Innocence, I was much more of just go with the flow. And I was that stereotypical spiritual teacher that's just yes. And even the sound of my voice was different. It's bizarre to listen to some of my old content now and be like, holy shit. Even my podcast, pretty much the whole first season, I mean, I'm sure there's some good nuggets in there, but I was very much in transference. So I like to leave it up because I'm people can see the transformation that I've had as I've followed my strategy of authority, as I've gotten into my desire. The frequency of my voice is entirely different. So yeah, I do think that's really important, Carla. That's a great point.
I do want to comment again too. I've mentioned this in another video, that if accessibility to human design materials is for you, if there's a barrier there, please drop us a DM with what you're looking for, because we have lots of resources and we'd be happy to pass them along.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Was it Jonah Dempsey who put it together originally? I don't know. I'm pretty transparent about this, but
and it's how much though, if you're looking for a specific thing, whatever. But yeah,
I think somebody, either Jonah or somebody in his community, put it together because they want things to be available to people, and they know how expensive this stuff is. And at the same time, I know that Jovian has a business to run, but 2027 is approaching. and it is important that you invest in yourself. If human design is really something that you're wanting to dedicate to, I think some sort of, energy investment into it, but we're all coming from different camps, different lives, a different spectrum of accessibility. I don't know. I'm what do you want? Let me give you what you want.
Yeah. And if you were to choose between getting a reading, whether it's with a certified analyst or not, or somebody who's been in their experiment for a while, all of that stuff, and buying books, get the reading and reach out to us and let us know what material you're looking for.
Yeah. If you have a budget, definitely invest in a reading. And we can also send you, if you're wanting to get a specific reading from a specific type, we have a network. If you're a projector, we know plenty of projectors to go to. If you're a manifestor, I think and this is where I'm starting to, maybe your first reading doesn't have to be with somebody who's the same type everything as you, but definitely integration sessions, and I'm in the camp of, I can give a first reading to anybody. I can introduce the system to any newbie. I'm really good at making it chewable for new people. And I'm such a cheerleader for human design. I get people excited about it. And then I send them to somebody who is similar to them, because I think that's really important. If you're going to continue down the path, to have a connection with somebody who's been in it longer and has the same experience, or can be, obviously none of it's going to be the same, but a similar lens, or at least the same authority or whatever. So,
and right now for me, it's a no to work with anybody who's not a generator or an MG. So that's just me right now. And that's just, and even sometimes emotional generators or emotional manifesting generators, I'm just finding what lights me up in the sessions, or what lights me up to do. And I'm just just bring on the sacrals. Sacral.
I think that's great. I think the more we get closer to 2027 and after, people are going to want sameness. And Ra even said this, we're going to be drawn to people that are the same as us. So that's going to go friends, romantic partners, mentors, whatever. And so I think that's a good point to make, is to be really clear within yourself what it is that who you like to serve. And then there's also just fractals.
Right. And that's
fractals.
just, I'm primarily doing human design stuff. Like Teresa does parts work and all this cool shit that she puts all together. And so sometimes she'll just need to know your design if she's not even talking to you about it, but outside of like a foundation reading or something like that. But for me, yeah, it's sacrals, human design. Let's get in there. And then when I start teaching LYD, like, yeah.
I'm so excited for LYD. Just Sammy Reyes said, fractals, whoever is good for whoever. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is fractals. We actually don't have control over whose fractal we end up on, I'm happy Brandy and I have been on the same fractal so far. Right? The joke is that projectors don't have the ease with money, the same as other types, thus the discount Ra offered. Totally. What's interesting about that is at least the projectors that are in our community are probably the most successful financially when it comes to like their businesses. And no, I'm not comparing, but just from what I know and what I've seen, like projectors that are living their design and they are experiencing success, like there's a lot that's possible, and it's really, really cool to see as well. Yeah, because human design. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I have defined ego and I have 4521, so that's like a foreign concept to me.
What, like not being successful with money?
Yeah, like, but not even like in the ways that you would think like successful, like having tons of it, but it's just like this, like always being able to have enough resources for, me and the tribe and all of that stuff. So when I learned about human design and learned that was a thing for projectors, like my whole life made sense, because I used to not understand why everybody couldn't think the way that I do or be in the world the way that I am. And I was like, that uniqueness, and it creates more empathy, So if you're somebody that's struggling with understanding why projectors operate the way that they do, like look at your design and see, your uniqueness around not self themes. There's things with money or resources or things like that. That's just something to be aware of.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to acknowledge and recognize that. I know that's something that a lot of people struggle with, and a lot of projectors or non-sacral types specifically, just because they don't have that sustainable energy. And just Sammy Ray was saying, got to get there first. Those projectors already paid for their study. And that's a great point, and it might be interesting to have a projector on here that we know self-studied and talk about their experience with, because we know a few of them, that, have definitely invested, I'm sure, but.
Let's talk about this real quick.
Yeah.
Two things. I want to say that, like, it's not that money is not an issue for me. Also, right now, like, my husband's not working. I have another business. I'm self-employed that I don't take a paycheck from. Like, right now, we're just kind of
hoping.
I'm just hoping
in full hope mode.
Just hope. But I also know that everything will be okay. So I don't worry about it. But I want to talk about, what did you just say? Money. Oh, no, not money. What did you just say right before that?
Was it about projectors?
Yeah.
Struggling with money?
No.
Sustainable energy, sacral.
No. What was the comment? I can't see the comment.
Receptive minds. Oh, the comment was, got to get there first. Those projectors already paid for their study. So the ones that are making money and doing well within the human design system have paid for the...
Damn receptive minds. So this is receptive mind in real life right now. Anybody that makes you a promise or that you can make money by learning your human design, I have a problem with that.
Ooh, we're going here. We're getting spicy.
Right? We're getting
spicy.
I just felt like it was like, I mean, it's just like, it's human design isn't to make money.
No, it's not. And I think that's why this is why we have a problem with combining manifestation and human design, because a lot of times these manifestation coaches or teachers are saying that you will make money with your human design. I'm not saying all, I'm not going to blanket statement that, but the ones that people have sent me saying, you know, what the fuck, what's up with this? But continue.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that. So if anybody, I mean, it's just like, that's not the intention of experimenting with your design. I mean, because there's people that are like heavy in their experiment and so satisfied in life or so successful, and it has nothing to do with money.
100%.
Everything, everything to do with, are you at peace? Are you surprised? Are you satisfied? Are you successful? Are you, you know, just like.
Right before you said that, Lori said nobody's signature is to get rich.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
yep,
it's just
100%. 100%.
If people are drawing you into human design so that you can make more money, straight off the bat, that's a mind thing, because you're thinking about what you want. Your mind is saying, I want to make 10K months. I don't know why that phrase drives me crazy.
Oh, it drives me insane.
Because
it's homogenization.
Right.
Everybody's meant to make 10K. Everybody can make 10K months. What if, you know, and it was Peter Kelly that did a post about financial homeostasis that really hit home for me. And I was like, yeah, everybody has their own like financial energetic homeostasis where they're making money because they're in their signature, or not because they're in their signature, they are in their signature and able to make, how do I want to say this? It's almost like too much money could take you out of your signature, right? Not enough money, you know, it's like, because I do think that money is like it's a real thing. We live in a world where we have to make money some way to pay bills and to survive, right? But there's also, when I really think about it, and this is, I think, this new world that we're going to be opening up to, there's going to be, and there already is, I'm sure, different people that have resources that is not from money necessarily, right? It's like, I don't know. I think it's opening up your mind to the possibilities of being in your signature and experiencing that. And who knows, maybe there are like homeless people out there that are in their signature. I don't know.
Yeah. You know, I mean, there definitely is. And it's not to downplay that we have a serious issue in this country, a systemic issue with
100%
economic policy and money and all of that stuff. And it's not saying that living your design and you won't have to worry about that at all. That's not. Money in the equation in human design are like separate but the same, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's not to say that human design is going to fix any of that.
Right. We have to feed ourselves. We have to have a roof over our head. But I think what we've both learned is with following strategy and authority, you have everything you need. You might not have everything that your mind wants because your mind probably wants it because of not self.
What you need
but
for your
you
signature.
Right. And that's like how I feel right now. Like I'm, you know, like when I first got into spirituality and manifestation, whatever, a number of years ago, like I was going through some of my old journals the other day, and all of these things that I wanted, like I wouldn't want now because I'm myself now. And back then it was coming from a place of not self. It was coming from a place of not feeling worthy. It was coming from a place of like, oh, I want a nice house and a nice car to feel worthy and to like show people that I am worthy of love or whatever. I feel so content right now, and my life is so simple. Like I can't imagine wanting anything more materially in this moment. I just want to be able to keep doing what I love for work as a manifesting generator. And that's pretty much it. Like, and to be able to pay my bills, you know, I don't have these like strong desires for material things.
Yeah. Yeah. I sold my not self house because I one day recognized that it was not, nope. And I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, that house was, how it came about was pretty awesome. But at the same time, it was like, this isn't in alignment with who I truly am.
Right. And your husband and I, Andy and I, were talking about these things yesterday, like what, because he was even saying, he's like researched like what it would be to live in a trailer.
Yes, yes, yes.
Because he just wants to feel successful, right, as a
Yes.
projector.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know, it's almost like people have to have these come to Jesus moments with themselves, like, am I in not self trying to maintain this lifestyle, or did I enter into this lifestyle from a not self place? And what's really important to me, my health, my signature. And that's pretty much, I mean, at least I think that's what should be most important to people. It's like, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Yeah.
And even if you have this amazing lavish lifestyle, if you can't afford to keep that up because something happens to your health,
or if you have, it's to keep it up is to the detriment of your health, you know.
Yeah.
However, and here's where it's funny, you know, working with, being in partnership with somebody, so our relationship's automatically emotional, but I know what's for me is a no, is that if we were to live in a RV, it's a no, because I couldn't sleep away from my family. Like, we'd all be too close. And also,
yes, yeah,
you know, we have 3 dogs, and it's a no to have 3 dogs in an RV. And so who knows what will happen, but
yeah, of course.
I mean,
well, and I think that's ESP processing.
Yeah.
I told him he can call me when he needs to process, because you might take things that he says seriously. You're like, wait a minute, I'm a no to that, but he's just processing.
Yeah. I mean, we're really at this crossroads too of with him diving into his experiment more, like, in him having if you don't know, he woke up one morning, couldn't use his legs, and had incredible tremors all over his body, so he's not able to work. And he's like, I don't even know if I want to go back to work. And of course I'm like, yeah, you know, and then I gotta like surrender to like him being in his experiment and me still doing my, you know, like, oh, there's so much. But
it'd be cool for him.
What's helping us is that we both understand our designs and can like honor that. And I'm like, okay, like, whatever you need to do, you know. Of course, he doesn't have to decide right now because he's on leave from work because he can't work. So,
which is kind of a gift. I mean, and that's kind of what him and I were talking about too. It's when you're following strategy and authority, or actually, should I say, ignoring your authority, your health might, I don't know, your health might take a turn at some point. The longer you ignore your inner nudges from your body, the more you're running yourself into the ground, the more you're acting out of not self, out of obligation. And for him, as like a purely tribal projector with only ESP and ego defined, that can be, I mean, you look at his design and you can see why this happened. And what he like just went through is Uranus opposition.
In it, yeah.
Or he's in it. Okay. Well, I don't know a ton about the Uranus opposition, but I think it's when you energetically really grow up and, you know, become an adult.
It might just be beginning, but there's that time period before, kind of like right before your solar return, where things like,
yeah. It might be interesting for him to get like a reading about that, and it might make a lot more sense to him why this is happening. But yeah, I think this is a really good example of a projector that's been not following their strategy and authority and is now experiencing health issues because burnout and because obligation and not self and all of the things. And luckily you guys have human design now, because at least you can understand why it's happening, and it's not like, I don't know, it's just, yeah, it just makes sense.
Well, and like, so long it's just been like, I've been like sacraling through, you know, everything, because he wasn't honoring his emotional authority. And so I was like in survival mode, but also just like, okay, I'll just sacral through. And then I'm having to learn like, oh, he's gonna wait. And then our children, so just a small example, our daughter wanted to have a sleepover at a friend's house, and she asked like that afternoon, and she's kind of gotten in trouble with this friend before, and he's like, you know, give me a little bit. And she was like, I need to know right now. And he was like, then it's a no, you know.
Good for him.
Oh, hold on, go ahead.
I
gotta get up for a second.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. So yeah, Andy has emotional authority, and him and I had a really long phone call yesterday about emotional authority because I think it's incredibly challenging to have an emotional authority and be in partnership with somebody whose authority works much quicker, right? So it's like, especially if he's not really tuned into his own authority and isn't asking for space and isn't clarifying that, and then Brandy, you're having to make decisions for him because he's not tuned into himself, that just makes it that much harder, you know? So I think he just really needed to get clear on, like, even though he's had readings, I think he's had readings from people who aren't emotional. So again, this is a good example of it's not really coming from an embodied place, and emotional is one of the more, I would imagine if you don't have it, it's hard to explain it because it's complex.
It is. It is. I can talk, I can keynote it. I can tell you what kind, like all this stuff, but like from that embodied place, because that's what's going to like resonate with the person. And it's like, and I don't know if that's just because we're feeling cognition. I have no idea, but it's like this, you can tell it kind of lands a little bit differently.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's definitely how I've felt when I've talked to, like when I did my reading with James, it was like I'd never gotten a reading from somebody who wasn't emotional. Well, Brayton actually was my first person and he is emotional. But we didn't really do a reading. He just gave me a bunch of information about being right. and gave me a come to Jesus about my motivation.
Right.
But like,
not like right, correct.
Right variables. Yeah, right variables. But yeah, when I did my reading with James, it was like, and maybe because he was also an MG, yeah, they're like the same type, same authority. There's this, like, I felt like I could just like take a deep breath and just, I felt seen and I felt understood, and it was really healing. So yeah, now that I've had things to compare it to, it's different.
So as we're talking about this, I hope that the people that are watching can see that human design is way more complex than manifestation or money, you know.
Mm-hmm.
My husband could easily just write down like, I want to walk again without assistance. I want to use my hands, but it's not like, then there's like, is that what's best? Is that what's correct for him? Is that what's going to happen? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think our biggest point that we wanted to make, you know, we're receptive, so this went all over the place, but, you know, what I desire to get across in this is we both really come from our hearts when it comes to design, because we have a genuine love for seeing people step into their own uniqueness and seeing them experience their signature and deconditioning. And to me, the spiritual manifestation stuff that I see out there and that I've also experimented with before I found design is homogenization at its finest. And it completely contradicts the foundation of human design. And if somebody has a firm understanding of the foundation of human design, they will not try to mix those, because it's like oil and water. They do not go together, because manifestation is coming from your mind. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so it really is that simple. And I think we're just trying to get that message out there, and not to put down anybody who's teaching that, not to question their character, because they genuinely might not know. And that maybe worked for them. And maybe they're in their signature and using their, I don't know. I don't want to go to that. Like, I can't say somebody else is in not self. Like, that's not for me to judge. But all I can say is, like, it seems like maybe certain people don't have a firm understanding of the human design foundation if they're trying to mix that with manifestation, because they really just don't go together.
Well, it could be easy to have gate 26 conscious and unconscious, or, you know, selling, the salesman, right? So that it could be easy to, I could see that the possibility, I would be in transference there too.
Oh, there you go.
Possibility that I could sell somebody something saying that you can do this with that. So, and there's so many nuances to charts, like even just with that, like if I were to do something out of possibility, or try to sell something out of possibility, or try to be in the not self theme of gate 44 because I don't have it. There's just so many things in there that are like, what's at play? That's why back at the beginning, Teresa mentioned, you know, the design of the person. Are they, you know, operating from a place of embodiment with their design?
Yeah.
Like, it's not for us to say if they are or not, but like, it's okay to be like, hey, tell me about your design and how you operate.
Yeah.
How did you put these things together? You know, what's that been like for you? You can tell when people are in their mind.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can. It's just, it starts to become a frequency. And again, it's not bad to be in your mind. It's all a part of life's journey. And we're all going to go at our different paces. And some people aren't going to resonate with human design, and some people are. And it's just, I think there's a lot of opinions being thrown out there, but I think we're passionate about the correct people that are meant for design to get the correct information as soon as possible. So they don't have to go through all of this riffraff, because Instagram is a wild, wild west where there's a lot of clickbait and there's a lot of things that are catering to the not self. And believe it or not, there are teachers that purposely try to sell to people's not self, whether they realize it or, well, some people probably don't realize it. Some people do and do it on purpose. So if you're able to, like, what'd you say?
Sorry, there are people that teach you how to sell to people's not self.
Which I'm a hard fucking no on that. Hard no. I look at it as, I'm here to show people what their potential is. And I want people to come to me from a space of, I don't need to fix myself. I don't need to change myself. I am perfect the way I'm designed, and I just want to be supported in embodying that. You know, and I'm not assuming that somebody wants me to fix them. And a lot of people are coming, you know, it's like old school 7-centered sales mumbo jumbo of like pain points and blah, blah, blah. And it fucking drives me crazy.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Or urgency. Like, by this, you have 2 days. I'm like, you are not taking into consideration emotional authorities.
100%.
If you're selling something in human design and you have urgency behind your offer, right off the bat, that's not 9-centered, you know?
100.
And it's not about not doing that. If that feels correct for somebody to do, have a disclaimer. If you're emotional authority and this is like, you know, starting to spark you and you're kind of want to ride your wave about it, let me know. When I do stuff, if I were to ever do urgency thing, which I don't, but if you need more time, this offer is available for emotionals forever, you know, until you something like that. I don't know, but urgency drives me crazy because I'm surrounded by emotionals and I know that they don't do well. I witness and feel what the emotionals in my life are like when they have urgency.
Emotionals that have urgency, it feels like I'm going to make an incorrect decision for myself. It feels like pressure, and it feels like I'm being rushed, and I will make a decision from a frantic space of like, fuck, I need to act now, versus like an embodied yes.
Yeah.
You know, clarity.
I'm dealing with that with my son, who's an emotional generator, with Halloween costumes. Oh fuck. Like 3 days away. He's been riding a wave about a costume for like 2.5 months, and it's every day it's just like, I want to be I don't know. I can't handle this. I understand what's going on, and then I try to not talk to him too much about it, and I try to just like hug him or put my arm around, I mean something, because I know that communicating with him about it is not going to make it any better. Yeah, when he's in it. And so that's just
Lori was saying it's like jumping. Oh, sorry, Lori was saying it's like jumping out of a plane without a parachute. That's exactly what it feels like. Like, okay, here we go.
Yeah,
you know, and I understand, like, people have businesses to run and they have to put a hard stop on things. If a course is starting, obviously you can't have somebody entering in like a week later, you know. But I think, you know, if ever I do, which I think because I'm emotional, that's why I don't like doing these like clear start, stop type of offerings. So that's why I'm working on a membership where people can join whenever and leave whenever, because then that allows people to be accessing their authority, and gives emotionals plenty of time. So it's not this like, you have 1 week to sign up and maybe I'll have to have a certain amount of slots available to keep it intimate. But like I think that's different, you know, like, oh, there's 3 spots left in this or whatever. You have to run a business, but as long as you're giving emotionals plenty of like time, you know, for my subscription plan, I didn't want to take more than a few people just so I could be more available. So I was like, you know, I'm only taking this many, but I gave people like 2 months to like sign up for that. So yeah, it's,
and the reason that we're not mentioning reflectors is because they often, I mean, I don't want to say they don't participate. That's wrong. Um, it's they are doing their own thing. They I don't know, they're just so magical. I love them. But you
Just
don't
on their own
often
planet.
see reflectors joining like things that are like a lot of courses or things because they take time, but also remembering that reflectors are out there. And so if you have an offering that is for all types, you take into consideration the lunar cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Your offer out at least a month in advance.
Yes, great point. Yeah, and I think this is a really interesting topic, and I think the closer we get to 2027, the more the consumers are just smart. Like especially the consumers that I want to work with tend to be people who are sensitive and attuned to frequency, and they can see under the surface of things. And I think just as a collective, consumers are getting smarter. We can see this in trends. This is why certain apps like TikTok have blown up, because it's not all the time, but tends to be more transparent and just more real and raw. And people want transparency. They don't want the fake salesy shit anymore.
Yeah.
And maybe that stuff still works on some people, of course. That's why it's successful. But I want no part in that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're going to see that shift more and more and more and more as we move out across the planning.
Yeah. 100%. Just checking in.
What are we in? Oh, what are we? 61-1. There's a big transition there too. Jonah was talking about in that talk. If you guys,
I need to go watch that.
If you guys are like big human design and even living your design, or big human design nerds like us, Jonah Dempcy on YouTube.
Wealth of free information. You could honestly just watch his readings and you could get a pretty good human design education just off watching Jonah's YouTube. And we want to invite him on here to talk about stuff. So I think it was out the ping you were getting was to talk about self-studying, because he's entirely self-studied. And he's also left-minded.
100%.
So
he put on there.
What'd you say?
He put on the human design conference that we went to in Santa Fe.
Yes. Amazing. Just checking in with some comments on here. Emily, it feels like jolts of electricity through my whole body. I'm assuming when making an emotional decision. Urgency. Yeah, I never used to understand why I'd start crying when making decisions. Yep, because it probably wasn't the time. And then Emily was also saying, I think isolating specifics of any body graph is a disservice to the system. You can see gifts, you can find life purpose, but those are aspects seen with SNA. Yeah, that's a great point. I think a lot of people come to design like, oh, what's my purpose? Or how can I make money? And they have these very specific questions. But that's why I usually take the stance of, not usually, I always take the stance of, you can't see that necessarily right now. I can tell you information about your incarnation cross or things like that, but it's also not necessarily your purpose. Your purpose is going to unfold the more you follow strategy and authority, and I can support you through that process, but I can't tell you what your life's going to be like. That's the mind wanting to know who I am and what is my life going to be, and wanting to predict the future, and that's just not possible. We just have to surrender and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, and then understanding your definition, knowing your definition, but also looking at open centers, hanging gates, not self themes, because we can go in and like cherry pick and be like, ooh, I'm really good at that. And then you might have a hanging gate where actually that's like more pronounced in your life, and it's very not self, and you're not even looking at that.
Yeah. And for those asking in the comments, I put Jonah's name and how it's spelled in the comments.
We'll put it in the comments once this posts too.
Yeah, it's he's great.
Incredible.
Well, how are we feeling? Do we feel like we communicated? I feel better. You guys, I was starting to feel like because there's been some of you maybe don't know about all the drama that's been happening the last like 2 or 3 weeks. And it was like an emotional roller coaster for me. And there was nights I couldn't sleep thinking about this. And that's how much sympathy and empathy and compassion I have for people. But at the same time, I tend to want to people please, right? That's my inclination. And so my not self was like keeping me up at night, like, how dare you be mean to anybody? Or, and even though I personally don't think I was mean, but there were some people out there being intense and just doing their thing. And I still don't, like, I still get nervous even talking about this. it's just been a lot. So I feel like I've been able to like speak my truth and clear things up for myself, at least.
Yeah. Any last questions on there? I don't see anything.
I don't think so. Let me see. Brandy, you're open emotional, right? I can imagine you feel what he had been avoiding. Oh, I think that was about Andy.
Oh yeah. But then here's this thing, like, who am I to say what he's avoiding? But I can feel it, and then I'm feeling cognition, and I'm like, it's an experiment.
Mm-hmm.
We communicate about it. I might inform how I'm feeling, and then, invite him into the conversation to share what's actually going on with him, how he's experiencing the thing, and then that's where we come to.
Well, it's probably been interesting for you because your relationship is emotional because he's emotional.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, now I'm having to like work on an emotional timeline when this is all affecting me too, and I can't really use my authority in this because it's affecting both of us. So we have to make decisions as a team. But then he wasn't advocating for himself, and he wasn't necessarily speaking up until like recently, right? And so now you're like, okay, well, now gotta shift gears.
Well,
so I think you handled it as best you could,
just like you and your husband. Me and my husband are opposite motivations, and so I'm watching my husband, and I'm like,
like, this is not okay. And didn't you even have a practitioner tell you that? Like, one of his practitioners?
Yeah, and it's not about, it's not about me being like, hey, you need to be in guilt motivation. I'm like, hey, you need to get real. I invite you to get real cozy with your emotional process, because that is strategy and authority and action, and that just kind of domino affects everything. You don't have to worry about if you're in transference or not.
100%. Well, I think Andy and I are going to become very good friends. So I was like, bro, just call me. Like, if you need to process, I get it.
Yeah, it was funny too, because he's like, how do I let her know? And because he always has felt weird about like not like inviting himself. Like he's like, even before he knew he was a projector, and I was like, just inform her that you're ready.
Yeah, I think the week that we first started talking about, and this is how emotional works, right? I don't even know that my body is feeling into timing. And like, sometimes I'm not aware of the timing that's happening. And so we started talking about it, and I was like, sure, like I'm open this day. And then there was a time that we were supposed to talk and it didn't happen. And then it's like it kept getting canceled and moved back. And then he reached out the other day, was like, hey, I'm ready to have that conversation. And there was a frequency in him that I felt was a shift. And I feel like when he first reached out, he wasn't ready. Yeah. And he was almost just doing it because he felt like he needed to. And then I was like, okay, boom, this is the time I'm ready. And then it came together and happened. So yeah, that's another good example of how our mind will do something because it feels like it should. But like his authority actually needed to come around to being ready for that conversation. And I felt like he was really ready to receive that yesterday.
Yeah. I can see comments now.
Oh my gosh. Amazing. Where did they go?
I don't know. All right.
Well, disappeared.
Do you feel complete?
I do, and thank you, Emily. I feel like sometimes I'm sure or any emotionals on here know, sometimes when we're in that emotional space and we're trying to articulate, especially with 1222, I'm either very articulate or I'm not at all articulate. So I still feel like even this live, I was a big, smash of words, and I'm like, did I say the right things? I don't know, but I appreciate that, and I feel complete. So miss you, Carla. Hope to see you soon. So if you guys have any things that come up even after we post this, you can always comment, and open invitation to anybody that ever wants to come on here and chat with us as well. We love just talking with a variety of people and hearing a variety of perspectives. So,
yeah, awesome. Good
all
chat.
right, my dears. Mwah.
Mwah. See you guys on the next one.